Hello and welcome to the Footy with Fletch podcast. This is episode 11 of the Footy with Fletch podcast. Today's special guest is Port Adelaide Football Club superstar Xavier Duursma. Hello, Xavier, and thank you for joining me.
G'day, Fletch. Thanks very much for having me on the podcast today. It's a pleasure.
It is going to be great to talk to you. Of course, the first question that I want to ask is, how are you doing after that concussion last week?
Yeah. So I'm obviously, it was a pretty big hit, big man in the Geelong. I forgot what his name was, bloody hell. Shows I've almost still got my concussion, but no, I've passed my concussion test. But I'm feeling all right. But my head obviously is fine now. I've passed all the concussion tests, etc. But just my chest and my shoulders are still quite a little bit sore, but. I should be okay, should be ready to go, and I'm looking forward to playing this prelim final.
Yeah, it should be great to see you playing in a prelim final. How did you find your first final for the part of it that you can remember it before the concussion?
Yeah, it was really exciting. Like, I think, obviously it's in some really challenging times, but by the whole kind of week was an interesting build-up, and it's something that, I hope this is the first time I'm experiencing an AFL final. And the week build-up was pretty interesting as well. Usually the older players of the club that have played finals before have said, it's usually there's lots of fans coming to the trainings, etc. And they really enjoy, massive hype up, and there's lots of stuff and ads on TV, etc., etc. There wasn't really too much of that because, I didn't obviously notice it with the COVID restrictions on us going around. I didn't really notice it all too much, but obviously I really enjoyed the game that I did play, and it was really great to get the win in the end. Obviously I don't remember too much from the collision and the 15-20 minutes afterwards, but I still really enjoyed the parts that I did play, and it was really great experience getting to run out in front of 25,000 crazy Port fans. So yeah.
It definitely was a great atmosphere at the Adelaide Oval. How do you think that atmosphere affected the way that your team played because you had the home ground advantage?
Yeah, it's obviously a massive thing, and we fought really hard during the regular season to get that home advantage. I think it is a massive, what would you call it, advantage that you said, because we obviously have 25,000 fans that are screaming and yelling out, and when we kick a goal, when we just tackle, when we do something really well, take a good mark or spoil, we had the crowd really getting involved, and our fans are fantastic at doing that and getting involved and helping hype us all up. So it just creates lots of energy, and for us, that's fantastic, and it is a big advantage, I think. So, and also not having to travel, the night before the game, etc. as well. So it's a really, really big advantage, and that's why we fought so hard during the regular season to maintain our top position on the ladder. So that we could make sure we had home finals.
I guess you mentioned the Port Adelaide supporters. What are they like, and what is it like when they sing the In Excess on Never Tear Us Apart? What is that like?
Yeah, it is. It's pretty amazing. The very first time that I remember doing it was our first home game last year in 2019. And I remember starting on the wing, and they were singing this Never Tear Us Apart, and I'd never seen it before live, and that was the first time I saw it live, and it was obviously when I was playing. It was pretty awesome just to feel, everyone standing up, everyone singing, the song, everyone knows the words, everyone knows it, they have their scarves put up in the air, and it's an amazing kind of feeling. It gets you very, very hyped up before the game, so that obviously is a great way to start. It also probably puts some fear into the opponent's eyes of, we're here and we're ready to go. So yeah, it's very exciting, and I love every part of it.
It definitely is a great part of the game. So, of course, you grew up in Gippsland, Victoria. How did that influence the person that you are today?
Yeah, it's a massive part of my life and who I am now. I'm a very proud Gippsland boy, country boy from down the very southeast of Victoria. I am a very proud foster man, and I will definitely be going back there in the off-season and enjoying some time with my family and friends, as I've missed them quite a lot. But I've always been very proud of where I'm from. There's been some amazing times. I've grown up there. All my great memories are from there growing up, and I can't really ever let go of it, just because that's where I've grown up from. That's where all my family and friends are, and it's a massive, massive part of my life. So it's obviously shaped me to who I am.
It definitely is a great town in Victoria. Which AFL players did you idolise as a kid and why?
Yeah, so it might come as a bit of a surprise, but I went for the Brisbane Lions when I was a kid and growing up. So some of my favourite players were Michael Voss, Simon Black and Jonathan Brown. They were three of my favourites. And they were obviously some of the best, or they were in probably, I think, one of the best teams of the modern era. And I don't think anyone would really come close to them, if we're putting them up against each other, because they just had a full team of superstars that just went week in, week out and, did exactly what they wanted to. And they're an amazing team to watch. And it was great to support them early days, and I was very young, but I did have quite a few years of, not much success, but just had to stick by them. But, Simon Black and Michael Voss were two of my favourites, and Jonathan Brown as well.
They definitely were a great team, and they are definitely back up and about in 2020. A lot of people have been asking, what is the context surrounding your bow and arrow goal celebration, and what is the meaning behind it?
Yeah, it's a good question. I get asked this a lot. It's got to do with the NBA celebration. Jamal Murray and Reggie Jackson, they do it when they hit a three-pointer, and I just thought, why not be a little bit different and do it. And I think it's obviously not been done before in the AFL, and I thought, why not do it? I have been doing it for quite a few years as well before I actually got to the AFL, so it wasn't like I was doing anything different when I got there. But yeah, it's just a big part of what I do, and my own personality, and I have to try and bring it out, every time that I can and every time I kick a goal.
It definitely is a great part of your game. What was it like when you played your first AFL match last year?
Yeah, well, it's very hard to actually describe it, Fletch. It's a really, really big day of emotions and blurs and all kinds of exciting and nervous feelings. So I was very lucky to be able to play my round one debut against Melbourne at the MCG, which is a pretty amazing place to make your debut at the MCG. So I was very, very lucky to do that. But yeah, at the same time, it was very hard to describe, because the whole day was just a blur of all kinds of emotions and excitement and nervousness and all kinds of things. And I don't really remember too much exactly from that day, just because, we won. I played, not a bad game for my first game, and then also kicked a goal. And I was lucky enough to get, into a good side and hold my spot for the rest of the year. But it was just a really massive day of emotions, and my family, my friends, lots of extended family came to watch, and all my friends and their parents, etc., all came as well. So it was just a really amazing day of celebrating. My lucky, how fortunate I was.
Yeah, it definitely was a great game for you. So what was it like to then go on and play 20 games in the 2019 season?
Yeah, as I kind of said just before, I was very, very lucky to be able to get that chance, and very lucky that the club showed a lot of faith in me. Playing across that year, I felt like, I was really part of the team, and I deserved to be there. And obviously the coaching staff trusted me, and it's an amazing part that they did to get me into there. And I worked really hard, and my hard work paid off. And I think that's the main thing. That it was a really, really tough kind of pre-season for myself, and first AFL season and AFL pre-season. But at the same time, I think I worked really hard, and I earned to get there, get my spot. And then I just went from there, and I was lucky enough to play those 20 games.
You definitely had a great first season. How have you found playing in a hub in 2020?
Look, mate, it's been very interesting. Some of the initial parts of doing lots of isolation for 2 weeks when I came back from Victoria from the isolation breakdown period, and then from there to going up to the hub into Queensland for I think 2.5, 3 weeks. That was also very interesting. But then we've also been quite lucky because South Australia's been COVID free for quite a long time now, and so therefore we've been able to stay at home and travel in and out to games that we need to. So we've been quite lucky in that regard. But at the same time, it has been quite frustrating as you know, we can't go about our normal business and normal life, so we can't do things that we want to do. I really enjoy trying to switch off throughout the week, especially last year, going to the movies a lot. I love the movies. I also enjoy, a few other things, and I also like seeing my family and friends, and I haven't been able to do that at all. So, there's been some very, very challenging parts of it, but I think it's all going to be worth it if we win the flag this year. So, it's going to be, we're weighing those things up, but it's going to be definitely worth it if we win the flag this year.
It definitely has been a difficult year for everyone involved. What do you think about the grand final being played at night, and are you a fan of the idea?
I've always been kind of, I suppose, you're wanting a kind of a night grand final, maybe not a night grand final, but a twilight grand final. I've felt like that's the direction the AFL could go in. And that was before that I got to the AFL. That was when I was younger in high school, etc. But I feel like now being part of it, being an actual player in the league, I feel like it could be a change. I think it could change year to year. I'm not really sure. I think they should really test it. I think that's what they're doing, is they're testing it out and seeing if it does work, because I think, you might as well do it and test it out and see if this does work, just because, why not? There's no, we're in the 2020 year. We've had a lot of changes already. You might as well test out something else to see if it works and as, going forward. But I think I don't mind it. In Brisbane, maybe not. Just I'm not really sure of it. But because it is in Brisbane, it's already been set. I just have to accept that and go in with and accept the challenges and do everything that I can to get myself there and win it. But at the same time, obviously Melbourne this time of the year is very different with the MCG. And so hopefully, Brisbane footy is a lot slippery at night. It gets very humid, whereas Melbourne's not so much humid at night this time of the year. So, I think you just have to toss that up, which I know the AFL is definitely thinking of. But, at the same time, I think it's a good time to trial it, and that's what they're doing.
It will be interesting to see if it goes ahead beyond 2020. What did Ken Hinkley say post-match last week for the post-match in that meeting that you had with the team?
Yeah, so last week he was obviously very, very happy with us and our performance. So, to get there to our first final at home against a very, very experienced Geelong side, we were able to come through, and we definitely got challenged by them many times throughout the game, but we were able to hold on and really, finish strong and really get to a good position that we wanted to get into and win. Obviously, I don't remember too much from the game, or the after-game stuff. I don't remember too much from that either. But Ken was really happy with the boys and the way that they performed. He wanted more from the midfield at halftime. We were losing contested ball, and he demanded more from the midfield at halftime, and they really did respond in the second half. I think that he was really pleased with that, and obviously pleased with the rest of the team's performance, seeing that we won. So, he was quite pleased with us after the game, but that was only one of our jobs done. We need to get a few more.
It definitely has been a great year for Port Adelaide, considering that you didn't even make the finals last year and you've gone on to win the minor premiership. It must be a great feeling and a great culture around the club.
Yeah, I agree. It's, we have come into this quite underdone in terms of final experience. We only have about some of the older and middle-aged guys in our team that have played, I think, maybe 9 or 10 finals for some of the older guys and maybe 1 or 2 for some of the middle-aged guys in our team. But, and our young guys have not played any, so that was our first that we've played on the weekend. But we've been very lucky. We've fought extremely hard, as I said before, to get to that top spot so that we can get our double chance and also, get home finals. But, it is a massive achievement for us, seeing where we've come from last year. And it's a great achievement for our coaching staff and everyone as a whole, for the whole club, just to know that we can actually do it. And that we've, if we put our work and our mind to it and our connection really we worked on in pre-season, we can really get there. And that's what we've done. So we're really doing well. And I think that hopefully we can hold that together and keep going.
You definitely have had a great season. How do you prepare for a match in this current circumstance?
Yeah, it is. I try and keep it as normal or as routine as I can. Last year was obviously a lot different because times things were normal and I was able to do, majority of the same things that I've always done to prepare for a game. But this year it's obviously quite different in terms of what we're allowed to do. But in terms of my game preparation, not much has changed for myself. In terms of, things I can do. I can still go for a walk pre-game, which is what I try and do to go and get my lunch. And then I go and do a few other of my exercises and stuff before the game as well, my bananas, etc. So for me, there's not too much that's actually changed in terms of what I can and can't do, but it's the more stuff that's leading up to the game throughout the week. That's the stuff that's limiting myself. But on a game day, I usually like to relax quite a lot and then have a slow build up from just about after lunch, slow build up into the actual time that I play.
It definitely is an interesting routine. Who would be the top 5 teammates at the Port Adelaide Football Club?
Oh, that's a very tough one. Are you talking about players or just friends or mates in general?
A bit of both.
Bit of both, yeah. Well, it's hard to go past Travis Boak at number 1 of being one of the best leaders and players at the club. He's been fantastic for us this year. My closest and best mates, though, have also been really massive for me in a year where it's been quite tough and missing family and other friends a lot. So I've been trying to have really good relationships with them. So people like Sam Hayes and Miles Bergman, as well as Jackson Mead, they've also been massive for me. Those 3 boys have not yet made it onto the AFL scene, but they are young and they will be in there at some point. Don't you worry about that. And another one that's been fantastic has been Tom Jonas. He's been a fantastic leader and captain all year. There's been some difficult times for us in terms of the guys that are from interstate that are missing our families and our friends, but he's been fantastic at trying to understand and get each other through it. And yeah, Tom's been fantastic. And I think it's been showing on game day as well.
He definitely has been a great leader out on the field. What was going through your head when Robbie Gray kicked that match-winning goal after the siren against Carlton?
Yeah, that was an amazing kick, wasn't it?
It definitely was.
Yeah, so I was kind of in the forward pocket, just behind the man on the mark, I think, and he kicked the goal, and I saw him kick it, and it looked really, really good off the boot, and I turned around it, and it looked like it was straight, and it held its line, and I just almost, straight away, as soon as I kind of turned and watched it go, I just knew it was going to go in just because it was Robbie. And it's kind of what I come to expect from him just because he's been a legend of the game for so long. But then, yeah, obviously I didn't really think too much, just went over to celebrate with him. And, winning a game of footy is an amazing feeling. So just went over and celebrate, an amazing player making an amazing play.
It definitely was a great goal, one of 2 great goals after the siren this year. What has it been like playing with Connor Rosie and Zach Butters, considering that you were drafted with them in 2018?
Yeah, they're 2 really, really good young players, obviously. Connor had an amazing year last year, and Zach's had a fantastic year this year, making a All-Australian squad of 40, which is an amazing achievement in your second season. And obviously Connor was fantastic last year in his first season, finishing second in the Rising Star. But yeah, obviously they're 2 fantastic players. They offer a lot, and they're really, really good at understanding the game. I think that's the biggest thing, is that they're both real natural footballers, and they really understand the game and take the game on with a lot of their own natural flair. And I think that's fantastic for the game as a whole.
They definitely are some great youngsters. Would there be any specific players at Port Adelaide that pre-COVID times that you would not want to sit next to on a plane?
Oh, that's definitely a spot for Tom Rockcliffe, I reckon. Tom Rockcliffe's a massive pest. Him and Zach Butters are 2 of the biggest pests at the club. So you don't want to get stuck next to either one of them if you're sitting on the plane or a bus going somewhere to a trip.
They definitely seem like 2 characters in our game. What is the hardest part of being an AFL player, Xavier, sorry.
That's okay, mate. That's a tough question, actually. I guess you'd have to say dealing with lots of your own internal pressure that you put on yourself. For me this year, I've been a little bit, I'd say, inconsistent in terms of what I've been producing. I've been injured and been, unlucky at times. As every player has to deal with injury, etc. But I've been, pretty unlucky doing my hammy twice this year, which is pretty frustrating. And for me, I've never really had that many injuries. I was very lucky as a young player. I've never really had too many injuries, which has been good. And hopefully, for the rest of my career, I don't. But I've had 2 hamstring injuries this year, and they've been, setting me back, and I've lost quite a bit of my confidence, etc. And I feel like losing confidence and then losing, your own kind of mojo, I would say, is pretty hard. And then you have to try and fight your internal demons that, not that easy to get out of, especially when you start playing some pretty average footy. It can be pretty hard to try and get out of your own head, and that's probably one of the hardest thing I think in footy is trying to fight your internal battles, let alone the outside world of talking about Duursma's not playing that well, all kinds of stuff like that. So the hardest thing for me I think is dealing with that.
How do you deal with the media criticism that is associated with being an AFL footballer?
For me, I don't try and listen to it too much. I know I just spoke about a little bit before about internal stuff. I try and focus on that more than anything in terms of, negative stuff, because I then try and go and talk to my coaches and talk to other people to try and get help. But in terms of social media stuff, I tend not to care too much because meaning it in no wrong way, they don't really know what goes on behind the 4 walls of our own club, and they don't really know what goes in behind the player's life outside of footy, etc. as well. So I don't really tend to look into it too much, just because they don't really understand fully, what a person would be going through, and they seem to just make some very bold claims and stuff sometimes. So I don't seem to read too much into it. Obviously, I see some of it, and that's inevitable in today's world, but I tend not to look into it too much.
Yeah, it is a great thing for you to be doing. So, of course, you are playing the winner of Richmond and St Kilda. Out of those 2 teams, who would you want to play more and why?
I think if you want to win the premiership this year, I think you have to beat Richmond. A lot of people have said that all year long, is that if you want to win the flag in 2020, Richmond are the best team, and we have to beat them to make sure that we win the flag. So while St Kilda, I think, have a decent chance of taking it up to Richmond, I still think that the Richmond Tigers will probably win that one out of the 2, if you're going to take it as a betting man, which I'm not. But I just think that most likely I would say it's going to be Richmond, and I think that I really want to play Richmond and look forward to beating them as we did earlier this year. I think if we play a similar way that we did earlier this year, we'll get the better of them, and I think that'll really set us up well for a grand final berth.
What was it like when you played Richmond earlier in the year at the Adelaide Oval and you went on to win that match?
Yeah, it was a really good, and I think a lot of people are calling it the game of the year. And I think it's probably quite fair enough. There was a lot of media and talk about it at the time. I think lots of people were really interested to see how that game was going to go, and we obviously did. We came away with the chocolates in the end, but I think it was a really hard fought contest, and hopefully that's similar to what we can produce something similar to what we did that time against Richmond, and we'll get the win.
Yeah, it will be interesting to see who wins that match. Are there any teams in the AFL that you dislike playing, Xavier?
Yeah, I don't really like Richmond or Adelaide.
Yeah, I definitely can understand, of course, given that Richmond have won so many premierships in the last couple of years. So thank you very much, Xavier, for your time today on the Footy with Fletch podcast. It has been great to talk to you.
Thanks very much, Fletch, for having me. It's been a pleasure. And I hope that you guys get some good content out of this. And tune in.
Thank you very much. So there you have it, Xavier Duursma on the Footy with Fletch. Thank you for listening to episode 11 of the Footy with Fletch podcast. Thank you to Xavier Duursma for giving up some time in his very busy schedule, and we wish him and Port Adelaide all the very best in their final this Friday night against Richmond. So thank you for listening, and stay tuned for episode 12. Bye for now.